Welcome to this complete dating for relationship YouTube course, all about dating in your feminine energy, how to attract a man who is interested in commitment to you using your feminine energy. And today we are going to cover some basics, a little bit of an intro to energy is what we're going to do today, and then just get started on ways that you attract a man in your feminine energy. And this will be a whole 6-part series of how to attract a man using your feminine energy. So do subscribe and stick around if you want to view the whole series. And otherwise, what we're going to talk about today is starting with what is feminine energy. So we'll just cover what that is because I find there's a lot of confusion about what that means. We'll touch on what polarity dating is and what that really means. We'll talk about what energy isn't. So the things that you're being told about being feminine that are not covered in actual energetic teachings. And then we'll get into that, how you attract your man with feminine energy, and do some questions as well at the end. Who am I? Why am I going to talk about this? I'm Alana. I'm a former chronically single woman, not by choice. I was totally fine being single, but I tried dating a lot. I was constantly dating from the time I was 18, with only a few years off for heartbreaks that happened to me because I constantly dated men who were not emotionally available and who were not interested in commitment in general or commitment with me. I turned that around using feminine energy, and now I'm a dating coach and the author of The Art of Feminine Seduction, which you can find in book form, ebook form, and audiobook form. And I also have lots of courses, my main course being The Art of Feminine Seduction. So basically I breathe this stuff, and I'm very glad to be teaching you about how to use it to attract your own man today. So what is feminine energy? I get a lot of questions about what is it actually? And at its core, feminine energy is sexual energy. This is a thing people seem to be afraid to say sometimes, but it is purely sexual energy, and it attracts masculine sexual energy. You can recognize it. You can recognize feminine sexual energy because it describes the way the female body builds orgasmic energy. To be clear here, you don't need to be having sexual energy just coursing through your body and just, having orgasms to attract men. That's not actually the base of this teaching. But it is the deeper and spiritual element of this teaching in terms of sexual energy being our life force. So this is kind of the idea behind these teachings, is that our sexual energy is our vitality. It's our life force energy. And it's the way that our sexual energy is the way that we transmute life into the world. Sex is the way that we procreate, for example, and then that creates literal new human life. In terms of manifestation, using your sexual energy is very powerful. However, it exists at multiple levels, and in the case of dating, all we're talking about is that practicing your feminine energy, like being in the way that is very natural for a feminine sexual being, gets you more positive attention, it gets you more effort, and more serious commitment from men. So it gets you a lot of good stuff in dating when you are able to use this kind of primal sexual energy, even in a very subtle way with men. It's super hot, right? Men are highly attracted to women who have turned on their own sexual energy. To be clear here, we're talking about energy in an energetic teaching that comes from, in the teaching that I do, Taoism, Tantra, and Hermeticism. So these are both Eastern and Western traditions that teach about using energy to create more vitality and health in your life. Here I made a note. You've probably heard of the teachings of Hermeticism from the movie The Secret. That is the big kind of mainstream thing that came out about the laws of the universe, right? So the laws of the universe include the law of attraction. The energetic laws of the universe, I should say, include the law of attraction. And they also include the laws of polarity, which is how feminine and masculine sexual energy work. So we're going to talk about that in a second as well. But for now, you should know that this energy teaching comes from a long lineage of many different places. It's not just randomly something that came out in the past 10 years on YouTube, and you can absolutely use it in modern life now because you can use it at different levels. So that's what I want to say here. Feminine energy can be practiced at different levels. So you don't actually have to go and study these spiritual teachings for years in order to use these teachings to become highly magnetic to incredible men. I, for example, was able to use these teachings to completely turn my love life around and meet incredible men, have really wonderful dating situations just from implementing some of the basics that we're going to cover even in this free YouTube course over the next few weeks. Some things, if you haven't been initiated into the feminine energy lineage, you can absolutely use this information anyway. Doesn't even matter. Because what it will do for you is it will give you energetic dating boundaries and help you take action to back them up. So instead of knowing what you want and feeling like you can't have what you want, you will fully recognize what you want. You will put up the boundaries, the energetic boundaries, to not accept anything less, and you'll also take action to back up those boundaries. So for example, if you are having a chat with a man that you are definitely not interested in, you'll just say no, because it doesn't support your feminine energy to spend your time and energy on a man who isn't going to do it for you. And also, you'll have more open-hearted communication with men. Instead of having the nice girl chats where you are trying to prove yourself to him, maybe make him like you more, trying to say the right thing so that he does what you want, you'll simply use some open-hearted, honest communication and get what you want. So much easier. And you will take a my pleasure first approach to dating, right? So again, feminine energy is the sexual energy, and that is about pleasure. And your pleasure doesn't even have to be sexual pleasure. This is the important thing. It's just, what do you want? What makes you happy? What do you like? And you start to take that approach to dating, it changes everything. And so that's what this course is going to cover. It's how you do that. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to spend years studying embodiment and all that kinds of stuff. You can absolutely do that. I love doing that. But it's not required for you to meet an incredible man. You can do this, I will say, relatively simply. It might not feel easy the whole time, but it's relatively simple for you to become this incredible magnetic woman. So let's talk about how you do that. Before we get into it, I want to talk briefly about polarity, give you a little bit more in-depth information, because I will say that when I was practicing the uninitiated information that I just presented on the last slide, I definitely had an incredible time with men, but it's when I learned this piece that I met my husband. So there was sort of a difference for me in my own level of embodiment, my own ability to really be serious, that I met my husband like within 2 weeks, essentially. Like it was a really quick turnaround for me when I got very serious about this stuff. Whereas before, like I was having an incredible time. Like, do not get me wrong, I was really enjoying myself. But this is what like landed me the relationship. So I want to cover it just a bit in case that's the same for you. And there's a piece in here that would really unlock something for you and change your dating life with this information. I want you to understand polarity, because what I hear from women often who have been studying feminine energy is that they're doing it wrong. They'll say things like, I was being too feminine or too masculine, right? I had too much masculine energy is a big one. And I want to reassure you that that's not possible. It's actually not possible for you to be too much or not enough of something, because we are talking about energies, and energies are not static. They're not solid. They are fluid. So you will be moving around, right? So this image here is a yin yang, if you know about that, right? It represents the masculine, the feminine. The yin is the feminine, the yang is the masculine. And they are here essentially two sides of the same coin, or two ends of a pole. That's what polarity refers to. It's two ends of a pole, two ends of a spectrum. Feminine and masculine sexual energies are an expression of polarity. They are two extremes, is another way to say that, right? They're two extreme ends of something. Like the North Pole and the South Pole, they're two ends of something that's actually not linear. And in this case, they are the ends of the spectrum of sexual energies that create new human life. So in this case, they're not everything, right? They're just the sexual energies of the world. And the reason they're so powerful is that they are sexually attracted to each other. When we talk about this, I want to make it clear that everything is not as certain, we could say. It's not as static, and it's not as black and white as we tend to think about this, right? This exists on a line. And I want to show you here the actual law of polarity from the Kabbalion, which is the book, the Hermetic book that teaches about the law of attraction, like the one that The Secret is based on, that they left out all the other laws of the universe for some reason. Not sure. It was just easier, I guess, to talk about one law, but there are actually up to 15, depending on what you look at, maybe 9. Depends. Depends who you ask. There are a lot of energetic laws to the universe. Law of attraction is only one, and here is the law of polarity. And I want you to look at this because it's very interesting to look at this definition of what polarity is versus what people are often being taught about their own sexual energy in terms of masculine and feminine. The law of polarity says everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. All right, so that's, kind of philosophical and difficult to understand. But another way to say this is that we understand the universe through opposites, right? So we understand hot because we know what cold is. So that's the idea about there being everything dual, everything having opposites, right? So there's hot and cold. We know what hot is because we know what cold is. But actually, what is actually hot and what is actually cold? It's actually subjective. Okay, so there aren't actual truths in the world. And in terms of energy, sexual energy, feminine and masculine energy, it's the same case, right? We know what masculine is because we know what feminine is. And at the same time, neither of those things matter. So there's never a point in dating when you are doing it wrong. There's never a point when you were too much or not enough in order to be worthy of love. That does not exist in this teaching. Okay. And it's really easy to misunderstand this stuff because it is so esoteric and out there, like it's like this stuff is kind of weird. And people spend their whole lives thinking about it, meditating on it, learning about it. So it's not weird that you like watched a few YouTube videos and it feels hard to understand. Like that's very normal. But I want you to know you're not doing it wrong. Like you are not too much of anything. Masculine, feminine, emotional, unemotional, available, unavailable. There's nothing about you that means you can't have love. And that is what polarity is saying here. Okay, just to quickly recap before we get into everything, feminine energy is sexual energy, so it describes the key to a full-bodied female orgasm. And even though it is associated with women, females, mothers, and goddesses, etc., because all truths are half-truths, none of those categories are perfect fits. Even though it seems like this is just about females or just about women or just about mothers, goddesses, whatever, that is not the full truth of feminine, right? That's just not the full case of feminine energy. And hopefully that will become clear through the rest of this course. So let's look at it. If you're a feminine woman, dating in your feminine energy is a great way to energetically attract a spicy ride or die relationship with a man who has the polar opposite sexual energy from your sexual energy. Okay, so again, your sexual energy is going to be likely pretty feminine, but you do not just sit in feminine energy all day long or just sit in masculine energy. This stuff is fluid. Energy moves. Energy is in movement constantly. And it is never stuck on one side of the pole. Never, never. Okay, that would be weird. Yes, anyway, too much. Too much. Okay. So if you're still confused, no worries, because it is better to embody feminine energy than to understand it. In fact, oftentimes our brains try to confuse us and tell us we don't know what is happening instead of just being in the embodiment. What I want to help you do in this course is embody the feminine more in your dating life. And that can be super tricky because oftentimes when we're struggling in dating, it's because we struggle to be in our bodies around men and in the dating world. But it's so powerful when you can do it, and it's so juicy when you can do it, and men love it. So I want to help you do that better for the rest of your life. Okay, so first things first is you need to remember that feminine energy is not performative. So anytime you are forcing yourself to do something, it's the opposite of feminine energy. If there's ever a moment in your dating life that you're like you're trying to do something, you're trying to be feminine, you are doing the opposite of feminine energy. Okay, if you are a naturally feminine sexual being, dating is going to feel more fulfilling when you choose to embody your feminine energy, and you will not need to perform it. There's also lies going around the internet about feminine energy being soft and nurturing, and that's a lie. Like, I have to tell you, the feminine is so much more than soft and nurturing, and not always soft and nurturing. Again, refer back to the law of polarity. It's a half truth for feminine energy to be soft and nurturing. Feminine energy is also the opposite of that. It's also extremely angry and has a lot of violence in it. So please do not buy into the soft and nurturing feminine energy lies. That said, feminine energy doesn't include a lot of outward force. So if you are trying to do something or forcing something, it's not your true feminine energy. However, when you are being soft and nurturing, that's absolutely feminine, because if it's true for you, that is you in your own natural feminine energy. Leave a question below if that doesn't make sense for you, if you need more guidance, because I get that this stuff is really confusing. And I definitely need to say, number two, it's not an identity. Okay, so your feminine energy is not an identity. You are not one energy. You are not feminine. You are not being too masculine. You are embodying feminine energy, or you are embodying masculine energy. And the point of learning all of this is that you have a choice. It's not that you cram yourself into the feminine box. It's that you know when you are in which energy, and you can choose which energy you want to be in at any given time. Feminine is the being versus doing. So what you can imagine here is the moment of ejaculation for a man, or the moment of orgasm for a woman. So male orgasm is very outward focused, right? It's very directed, it's based on penetration, it's based on force. And a female orgasm is based on the relaxation and the feeling. It's like the sensation of pleasure in your body. Like, it's very embodied. It's literally inside your body. And so here we have this distinction of being versus doing, where the masculine is very interested in action. Masculine energy is about penetrating energy in the world. And again, even as a woman, you do penetrative energy in the world. And even as a man, men do non-penetrative energy in the world. They do receptive energy. People do both energies. When you are dating, the most powerful energy to focus on is going to be the one that's most sexually natural for you. In dating, as a feminine woman, being in the being energy is the most powerful. Okay, so being is the feminine energy opposite of the masculine energy of doing. We have been trained, especially in the West, but mostly everywhere in the world right now, to focus on doing. And your mind will want to focus on what to do to get a man to want you. But the ultimate power is how you are being, because the masculine is attracted to your essence and not your actions. I'll say that one more time, because that's like the meat of this lesson right here. Is a man falls in love with you based on your essence, not your actions, right? He's attracted to your essence, not what you do. So right now, what I'm guessing is that you focus on what you should say, what you should do, what you need to look like to get him to want you. But focusing on the opposite is what actually is going to get you traction in dating. So what you need to pay attention to is what he does and how you are. Right now, you're probably not taking that approach, and that is what is leading you to the dating results you're getting. The deep, amazing shift comes when you switch your focus. You change your thinking from what do I do? How much does he want me? How can I get him to want me more? How can I get this to happen? And you move your attention to how am I being? Looking at how you are will change how you behave. So it does change what you do, and it changes how you feel, and it changes how you respond, and it changes all of these internal processes, and you make different decisions. You make different decisions internally and in the world, and that starts to change how dating goes for you in ways that I can only hope to describe for you, right? Okay, so if you are looking at what he does and he says he's going to do one thing and then he doesn't do it, you pay attention to how you are in those moments, and you can notice, I'm being anxious right now. I'm being a little bit weird about this man. I'm unsure about this man right now. And then you can look at like, oh yeah, that's because he says he's going to do one thing and he doesn't do it. And when you take that moment to notice how you are in response to a man's inconsistent actions, all of a sudden it becomes less compelling to try to get him to do something. And there's that try again, right? Because the instinct right now is he isn't doing what he said he was going to do, or he isn't doing what I want him to do. So I need to try harder. I need to do something about it. And the feminine approach is not to do something about it. It's to look at how you are in response to it. And later you can absolutely do something because, again, you need your masculine energy in life. It's very important to have your masculine energy. But going to your feminine first and making decisions from your true feminine essence in terms of this man doesn't make me feel good, then you make a whole different decision than when you just kind of blindly react from masculine energy, taking action, trying to get him to do something that you would otherwise not be interested in if you were actually being honest about what's true in your own feminine heart. The thing here is to check yourself for attitudes about doing. Like if you're thinking, what do I text? What do I say? What do I do? Where do we go on the date? How do I dress? Does he like me? How do I get the relationship I want? Notice the do in every single one of these questions. It's super common. These are super common questions that we kind of internally grapple with in dating. And they're very action oriented. They are super doing based, very masculine. So what you want to do, how you want to be, is in the being instead of in the doing here. So instead of taking that action or, changing this, it's really just an attitude adjustment. And your focus is on the being. Your focus is on how am I? How am I right now? Internally. Not like, oh, did I lose 10 pounds? It's how am I? And that will change every piece for you. So you're almost guaranteed to catch yourself in the doing thought processes, and the invitation is to switch to the being. How are you being in online dating chats? How are you being around attractive men, or this one attractive man that you would love to get to know more? And how are you being after you get home from a date, when you're back in your own space? How are you being? And these questions are incredible for yourself. And now if you have questions for me, please do leave a comment below. My book, The Art of Feminine Seduction, explains all of this in greater detail as well, or the course. But you can also always reach out to me here through my website, through my email, on my social media. Leave a comment below and do subscribe and stick around for part 2. There is so much more coming your way, and I hope to see you there.